Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is exactly what we're not going to do. This is what we're not doing. Stephanie White, you're not about to throw Caitlin Clark under the bus after this loss. Yes, Caitlin Clark missed 2 crucial free throws late in regulation, and those misses absolutely mattered. Nobody is denying that. But acting like those 2 shots were the only reason Indiana lost this game ignores everything else that happened over the course of the night. While everyone is focused on those missed free throws, let's not forget what happened from the sidelines. Jackie Young caught fire and went on a 17-run scoring run almost by herself. Then the Las Vegas Aces stretched it into a devastating 24-0 scoring run that completely changed the game. During all of that, Stephanie White sat on the bench and watched it unfold without calling a timeout to stop the momentum. That's a coaching decision, and it deserves just as much scrutiny as anything that happened on the court. When you have Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston sharing the floor, there should be a play ready to settle the offense and stop the bleeding. Instead, the offense stalled, the lead disappeared, and the Aces took complete control. That's not just on one player. Coaching is about making adjustments when the game starts slipping away, and those adjustments never came. Then, after the game, Stephanie White stepped up to the podium, and many fans felt like her comments placed far too much responsibility on Caitlin Clark's shoulders. Whether that was her intention or not, that's how it came across. A head coach is supposed to protect the locker room, accept responsibility for coaching decisions, and stand behind the team after a difficult loss. This isn't the first time people have questioned Stephanie White's leadership. There have been concerns about how she handles player rotations, how she substitutes Caitlin Clark on defensive possessions, and whether those decisions affect the confidence of players like Lexie Hull. There are also questions about why player name continues to struggle to get meaningful minutes despite opportunities to help the team. No one is saying Caitlin Clark played a perfect game. She made mistakes just like everyone else. But basketball games are rarely decided by one player alone. Coaching decisions, timeouts, offensive execution, substitutions, and in-game adjustments all play major roles. Putting the spotlight entirely on Caitlin Clark while ignoring everything else that happened simply doesn't tell the full story. That's why so many fans are frustrated and why the criticism of Stephanie White continues to grow after another painful loss.
Steph, what do you say to players after you have 3 free throws that could end it right there in regulation and none of them dropped? Do you feel like you need to say anything to Kelsey and Caitlin in a moment like that?
No, I mean, look, it's easy in a game like this to think it comes down to one thing. For me, I look at that 15-0 run in the last 3 minutes of the second quarter and the 7-0 run the first however many minutes of the third quarter. That's the gist of it. I look at our 22 turnovers. They gave them 18 points. Players already hate that they miss free throws, right? Hate that they miss plays. Like that's, you just got to try to keep them positive, in those moments. But it really came down to us giving them extra possessions with our turnovers, and those runs end of second into the third.
And I know in a broken play it can be tricky, but was there instruction to foul on that last play of regulation before it got?
We knew what was coming, and we were right there. We had talked about fouling, but they're so good, and they're such veterans that if you get your hand in there just a little bit late, they're going to go up into the shot, and they're going to bait you, into that. In that situation, that's a 50-50 ball that we just got to come up with. AB read it perfectly. Her timing was perfect. It's a loose ball, and it bounced their way. We got to come up with that play.
Defensively tonight, especially in that second half, it felt like you were getting stops to kind of keep you in the game. What do you think of the work on that end?
I thought when we got them playing in the half court, we were excellent. I really did. I thought we were very good. It's tough when you play a team that's defending champs. When you give them easy opportunities in transition, and then they get confidence. And I thought early in the game, our defense was good. I don't know. At one point they were shooting like 34%, but then you give them layups in transition, and you get a couple of those to go, and you get a little juice, and then you start knocking down some threes, and we were playing catch up. So I thought when we got them in the quarter, our defense was pretty good.
You mentioned giving up a 15-0 run, and that was right after you guys went on the 20-something run. Just did you feel anything flip from one run to another, or what changed in either the Aces or with you guys?
I think we had 5 turnovers in that run. We talked about it in the timeout. Hey, we want to make a run right here heading into the half. I think there was 3 minutes left, maybe something like that. But we had 5 turnovers, and it just allowed them to get the gas going and get going on the offensive end.
In that thought process, what adjustments made in regards to the thought process, and what did you learn about the teams that didn't?
It's tough to make adjustments when you're getting turnovers for touchdowns, so to speak. So just really talking about taking care of the ball. When that happened, we got away from our pace. So talking about keeping our pace, because our pace is our advantage. Really trying to make sure we got the looks that we wanted to, on the offensive end when there were dead ball situations. It's, again, I thought when we were able to set our D, we were pretty good. But our group, I'm proud of our group, because, to be able to take a punch like that, and then we kind of just stood there. Like, I don't know a whole lot about boxing, but when you hold on right there, we kind of just held on, and then we found a way to fight back. And look, we got to learn from this, because there have been too many games where we've had leads and we've relaxed and we've let teams back in it. So I'm not sugarcoating that. We got to learn from it. We got to make plays when we need to make plays. I feel like I should have called a timeout at the end too, when we didn't see anything that we liked when the clock was running down. That's on me. But at the end of the day, we got to watch it. We got to learn from it. We got to grow. We can't trip on it. We can't trip on anything that's behind us. We got to move forward, because we got a tough Chicago team coming at us on Saturday.
You say you've got to learn from it. You've had so many games this season where a big lead just fades away. And I know we were asking you about it earlier in the season. Why do you feel like that's still such a challenge for you guys? What relaxes for your team?
Our minds. I think it's a mentality. I mean, you see it in Vegas. They're vets. Their mindset is always the same. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. They stick with what works and what got them there. I think for us,
people are starting to notice it. Stephanie White continues to put the spotlight on Caitlin Clark whenever things go wrong, but where's the accountability for the coaching staff? That's the question a lot of fans are asking after another frustrating loss. Every time she speaks, it feels like the conversation somehow circles back to Caitlin Clark. At no point does Stephanie White step up and say, I needed to have my players better prepared. She never says, I should have called a timeout and settled everyone down offensively. She never says, I should have made defensive adjustments on Jackie Young before the game got away from us. Instead, the blame keeps getting pushed toward the players, especially Caitlin Clark. Make no mistake about it, Caitlin Clark absolutely needed to knock down those free throws. Caitlin Clark also turned the basketball over too many times. Kelsey Mitchell needed to make that free throw as well. Those are fair criticisms. But basketball games are not won or lost by one player alone. Coaching decisions matter just as much. Look at Aliyah Boston. She's spending possession after possession, standing out at the three-point line all damn game. That's not happening by accident. That's part of the offensive system. Yet somehow, none of that falls back on the coaching staff. According to Stephanie White, it's always somebody else's fault. And most of the time, that somebody ends up being Caitlin Clark. That's disgusting. Then she talks about loose balls, turnovers, and execution, saying the players have to be better. But when does she ever look in the mirror? When does she ever admit that she could have made a different decision? Brienne January isn't responsible. Austin Kelly isn't responsible. None of the coaches have any responsibility. Apparently, it's all on the players. Then came one of the biggest moments after the game. A reporter asked about the team's defensive performance and the adjustments that could have been made. Stephanie White's answer, once again, seemed to steer the conversation back toward player mistakes instead of coaching decisions. Let's not forget what actually happened. Lexie Hull had been doing an outstanding job defending Jackie Young, who had 0 points during that stretch. Then Lexie Hull came out, Kelsey Mitchell took the assignment, and Jackie Young started tearing her ass up. That's a coaching decision. That's not on Caitlin Clark. Finally, one reporter challenged Stephanie White directly and essentially asked what she could have done differently. Instead of accepting responsibility, the conversation was redirected back to player execution. That's why so many fans are frustrated. They want a coach who takes ownership when things go wrong instead of constantly pointing fingers. Fire this bum. This bozo of a coach has to start taking responsibility. Get down in the comments and let me know what y'all think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel. Stephanie White, you make me want to throw up.